If you're thinking about getting budgies, then this is a video you really need to watch first, because a lot of people start keeping budgies without knowing the basics, and later they realize they made mistakes that could have been avoided. Welcome back to Dream Birds Aviary. If you're thinking about getting budgies, then this is a video you really need to watch first, because a lot of people start keeping budgies without knowing the basics, and later they realize they made mistakes that could have been avoided. Budgies may look small and easy to keep, but they still need the right care, space and setup to stay healthy and happy. In this video, I'm going to share my real experience and show you what you should know before you get budgies, so you can avoid common problems and give your birds the best start. And trust me, some of these things are often ignored but make a big difference. Before we go into the details, the first thing you need to understand is that getting budgies is not just about buying a bird and putting it in a cage. A lot of people see budgies as easy pets, but in reality, they still need proper care, time and attention. If you are not prepared, it can become stressful for both you and the birds. So before you even get budgies, you need to think about your time, your space and your commitment, because these small birds still depend on you every day. Starting the right way makes a big difference in how your birds behave and how healthy they stay. Before you even think about getting budgies, the first thing you need to understand is what they actually need to live properly, because many people think budgies are simple birds that can live in a small cage with just food and water, but that's not true. Budgies are very active, social and intelligent birds, and they need space to move, fly and interact. If you keep them in a small or crowded space, they can become stressed, unhealthy and even aggressive over time. They also need proper food, clean water and a safe environment where they feel comfortable. Another important thing is that budgies don't like being alone. They are social birds, so keeping at least two is always better than one. So before buying budgies, you need to be prepared to provide the right space, the right setup and the right care, because this is what will decide how healthy and happy your birds will be. When it comes to keeping budgies, one of the biggest mistakes people make is choosing the wrong cage or not giving enough space. Because many people think since budgies are small birds, they don't need much room, but that's completely wrong. Budgies are very active birds, they love to move, jump and fly, so the cage should always be as big as possible, not just something small to fit in your room. A wider cage is better than a tall one because budgies fly side to side, not up and down. Inside the cage, you should have natural perches, not just one straight stick, because different sizes help their feet stay healthy. You also need to make sure there is enough space between perches so birds can move freely without hitting things. Food and water should be placed in a clean and easy to reach area, and toys can be added, but not too many to overcrowd the cage. Another important thing is cage placement. It should be in a calm area, not too noisy, not in direct cold air or strong heat. In my experience, giving birds more space makes a huge difference in their behavior. They become more active, less stressed and much healthier overall. So before getting budgies, always think about space first, because a good setup from the beginning will save you problems later. Handling and socializing your budgies is something that takes time, patience and the right approach, because many people expect their birds to become friendly very quickly, but that's not always the case. Budgies can be nervous at the beginning, especially in a new environment, so it's important not to rush or force interaction. The best way to start is by letting them get used to your presence, talking to them calmly and spending time near their cage so they feel safe. After some time, you can slowly introduce your hand inside the cage without making sudden movements, allowing them to come to you instead of forcing them. Using food like seeds as a reward can help build trust, and over time, they will become more comfortable stepping onto your hand. In my experience, birds that are given time and patience become much more friendly and relaxed, while birds that are rushed can become scared and harder to handle. So always remember, building trust is the key, and once your budgies trust you, their behavior and confidence will improve naturally. Another very important thing you need to think about before getting budgies is their health and hygiene, because this is something many people ignore at the beginning, and later it causes serious problems. Budgies are small birds, but they can get sick very quickly if their environment is not clean or if they are not looked after properly. Keeping their cage clean is very important. Food bowls and water containers should be cleaned regularly, and the cage floor should not be left dirty for too long. You also need to pay attention to your bird's behavior, because small changes like sitting quietly for long periods, not eating properly or puffed up feathers can be signs that something is wrong. Fresh air, clean space and proper diet all play a big role in keeping your birds healthy. In my experience, when hygiene is maintained properly, birds stay more active, more energetic and problems are much less likely to happen. So don't wait for birds to get sick. Focus on prevention, because good care from the beginning will save you a lot of trouble later. One thing many people don't realize is that budgies should not stay inside the cage all the time, because even if the cage is big, they still need time outside to move freely and exercise. Letting your budgies out of the cage in a safe and controlled environment is very important for their physical and mental health. When birds are allowed to fly and explore, they become more active, more confident and less stressed. However, this should always be done carefully, making sure windows are closed, fans are off and the room is safe with no danger around. In my experience, birds that get regular time outside the cage are much happier and more interactive compared to birds that stay inside all day. It also helps build a better bond between you and your birds, because they become more comfortable around you. So don't think the cage is their whole world. Giving them time outside, even for a short period every day, can make a big difference in their overall behavior and health. You will also notice a big difference in their behavior when they are allowed outside the cage regularly. Birds that stay inside all the time can become quiet, less active or even stressed, but when they are given freedom to move around, they become more curious and more confident. In my experience, when budgies come outside, they start exploring, interacting more with each other and even with you. This is a sign that they feel safe and comfortable in their environment. So giving them that extra space and freedom is not just about movement, it's also about improving their behavior and overall well-being. Another important thing you need to understand before getting budgies is having a proper daily routine, because birds feel more comfortable and secure when things are consistent. Feeding them at the same time every day, changing water regularly and spending some time with them daily makes a big difference in their behavior. Budgies quickly get used to routine, and when they know what to expect, they become calmer and more confident. It's also important to give them time outside the cage regularly and keep their environment clean as part of your daily routine. In my experience, birds that follow a consistent routine are more active, more relaxed and easier to manage compared to birds that don't have structure. So even though budgies are small, they still need your time and consistency every day, and this is something you should always be prepared for before getting them. Noise and sound is something many people don't really think about before getting budgies, but it's actually very important to understand. Budgies are not silent birds, they like to chirp, communicate and stay active throughout the day. For many people, this sound is enjoyable and relaxing, but for others it can become a bit too much, especially if you prefer a quiet environment. In my experience, budgies are not as loud as bigger parrots, but they are still very active and will make noise regularly, especially during the morning and evening times. This is their natural behavior, and it shows that they are healthy and comfortable in their environment. However, if they are bored or stressed, their noise can also change, so it's important to understand the difference. So before getting budgies, you should think about where you will keep them and if the sound will be okay for you and others around you, because this is something you will experience every day. Budgies also use sound to communicate with each other, so if you keep more than one bird, you will notice they are constantly interacting through chirping and small sounds. This is actually a positive sign, because it means they feel safe and social. In my experience, a quiet bird is sometimes more of a concern than a noisy one, because active birds usually mean healthy birds. Cleaning is another very important part of keeping budgies, and this is something you need to stay consistent with. Even though budgies are small birds, they can make a mess quickly, especially with food, feathers and droppings. If the cage is not cleaned regularly, it can lead to bad smell, bacteria and even health problems for your birds. Food and water containers should be cleaned daily, and the cage floor should be checked and cleaned regularly to keep everything fresh. In my experience, when cleaning becomes part of your routine, it doesn't feel like extra work, it just becomes a habit. Birds also feel more comfortable in a clean environment, and you can clearly see the difference in their activity and behavior. So keeping things clean is not just about appearance, it's about keeping your birds healthy and safe. Another thing to remember is that a clean environment also helps you notice problems early. When the cage is clean, it's easier to see if something is unusual, like changes in droppings or behavior. This can help you take action early before small issues become bigger problems. Temperature and environment are something many people don't think about in the beginning, but they play a very important role in keeping budgies healthy. For example, if birds are placed near a cold window, strong wind or direct heat, it can affect their comfort and even make them sick over time. In my experience, budgies do best in a stable environment where the temperature does not change too quickly. They don't like strong cold air or sudden changes, so it's always better to keep them in a place where the temperature stays consistent. Another thing to consider is airflow, because fresh air is good, but strong drafts are not. So you need to find a balance where birds get fresh air but are still protected. I always make sure my birds are in a comfortable area, not too hot and not too cold, and you can clearly see the difference in how active and relaxed they are. So before getting budgies, always think about where you are going to place them, because the right environment makes a big difference in their overall health and behavior. You should also avoid placing cages near kitchens or areas with strong smells, because smoke or strong fumes can be harmful to birds. Even small things like this can have a big impact, so it's always better to choose a safe and stable environment from the beginning. For example, in wintertime you need to be careful with cold air. In summer, too much heat can also affect birds. The final thing you need to think about before getting budgies is their healthcare and veterinary support, because this is something many people don't consider until there is a problem. Budgies are small birds, but they can get sick quickly, and when they do, they need proper care and attention. For example, if you notice your bird is not eating, sitting quietly for long periods or looking past you, these can be signs that something is wrong. In my experience, it's always better to act early rather than waiting, because small problems can become serious if ignored. Another important thing is knowing where your nearest vet is, especially one that understands birds, because not all vets specialize in avian care. I always recommend being prepared in advance, so if something happens, you already know what to do instead of panicking. Taking care of your bird's health is part of the responsibility, and when you are prepared, it gives you peace of mind and keeps your birds safe. So before getting budgies, always think about this side as well, because good care is not just daily routine, it also means being ready if something goes wrong. Even regular observation is very important, because you see your birds every day and you can notice small changes quickly. This helps you act early and keep your birds healthy. Before you decide to get budgies, the most important question is whether they are the right pet for you. Budgies are friendly, active and enjoyable birds, but they still need daily care, time and attention. For example, you need to feed them, clean their space, spend time with them and make sure they're healthy. In my experience, budgies are great pets for people who are willing to give them time and care, but they are not something you can ignore or leave without attention. If you enjoy watching birds, interacting with them and taking care of them daily, then budgies can be a very good choice. But if you are looking for something very low maintenance, then you need to think carefully before getting them. So always make sure you are ready, because when you are prepared, keeping budgies becomes a very enjoyable experience. So overall, keeping budgies can be a very enjoyable and rewarding experience if you understand their needs and are prepared from the beginning. They are small birds, but they bring a lot of life, energy and interaction into your daily routine. In my experience, when you give them the right care, space and attention, they become more active, more friendly and much more enjoyable to keep. I hope this video helped you understand what to expect before getting budgies, and hopefully it will help you avoid some common mistakes as well. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next video.